All right, guys. I hope everybody is doing well. I'm still making a few minor adjustments here. Sorry. Okay. Um, this is chapter 8, and we're going to be talking about differentiation in relationships and particularly in marriage. And again, this is very non-traditional, if you will. It feels to me in that um, we are we are reading the author's story of their life. And so what I'm trying to do is extrapolate from that the concepts that we need to talk about and that you need to be aware of and that you need to integrate into your process papers and life in general. This is very personal, and if you allow yourself to get into it and you think about what's happening and you apply it to your own life as you read, it's actually tiring. It's kind of emotionally draining. I was sitting here going through this chapter, and I'm just like, wow. I mean, it's stirring up emotions and events and thinking about things. And so I hope you're doing that. I hope you're allowing yourself to, or forcing yourself to, whatever it is, to really get into this and think about it. Not only for you to be a healthier person, but also for you to be able to take these concepts to other people and help them be healthier. Now, from a Christian perspective, which we talk about throughout I work really hard to just integrate, I want a natural flow of integrating Christian perspective into everything that we talk about. Certainly, one of the themes that has come up in my mind really for this whole time, is the sins passed down from generation to generation. And your initial response may be, oh, well, I'm free from that. Well, maybe, but maybe you have work to do to be more free from that. Maybe there's levels of freedom from that. Maybe we could put that on a continuum from not free at all to extreme free, and all in between. And we're most of us are somewhere on that continuum. And so, oops, sorry, I'm going to turn my phone off. So I want you to think about that. I believe that freedom from a biblical perspective comes through asking the Lord to forgive you for bearing judgments and unforgiveness, and then asking the Lord to empower you to forgive those who have hurt you, and that helps. So, also from a Christian perspective, we know that trials and tribulations do have the possibility um, of bringing about strength and growth. Count it all joy, my brethren, when you meet various trials. For in this Brad Fairchild paraphrase. So as you do that, um, then character is built. If we murmur and complain and gripe all the way through our challenges, then resentment, bitterness, hatred sets in, and we are worse on the other side of a challenge. So it's not. We're all going to experience painful events in our life. We're going to have challenging planned and unplanned events. One of the focuses of this chapter was talking about divorce. It's not like, you get married and say, okay, I'm looking forward to the day that we get divorced. I mean, obviously, obviously not, but it happens. And so you may or may not have experienced a divorce yourself, but you probably know somebody that has. So you can think about that in your own family or in your own life or in the lives of people that you will work with and minister to. Okay, so if we handle them negatively, it's going to be to our demise. If we handle them with looking to the Lord and being thankful and walking in forgiveness, then it will grow strength. And truly, I really believe that life's challenges are opportunities for growth. Okay, so differentiation in marriage. So think about your marriage. If you're not married, think about a relationship, a close emotional relationship that you have or have had, possibly a romantic relationship. How able are you to share your deepest, darkest, biggest, baddest, ugliest, and most exciting, both ends of that continuum, without much emotional reactivity and without involvement of third parties? So again, Bowenian theory would say that we get into something painful, emotional reactivity, anxiety, pain increases, and the tendency is to bring in a third party to try to bolster our side of the argument, or gain some level of support, and therefore ease the anxiety that's going on in the relationship. So I really liked that in terms of um, you talk about what does healthy look like. The name of the class, right? Healthy family systems. What does healthy look like? That's healthy right there. That is huge. That's right. That one statement. And we could talk about that probably all day. But we're not going to. These concepts are not easy to apply. This is clearly a lifelong. I mean, it's easy to say that, and then you try to apply that. It is very, very challenging, I believe. So another theme that shows that we have some level of maturity, emotional maturity, and I'll say also differentiation, is are you able to be present? And I don't just mean physically show up, but I mean be present, right? There's a difference. You can be there but not be present. Do you go to family events? Think about your family members and people who have like, yeah, I'm not going to that funeral, or I'm not going to that wedding, or I'm not, it's like, I'm not going to that baptism, or it's like, whoa, really? Like, what the heck? So again, this is part of the whole relationship, intimacy, differentiation. Can we go to these events and remain ourself, keep a distinct self in the midst of it, or do we get engulfed in all of the family drama and all of the junk and mess and dynamics, or are we able to go and just be a part of the experience and maintain a sense of our own self? So when you go to these events, family events, have you ever thought about preparing? I frequently ask people, so they're talking about, well, I'm going to say this and this and this to my mom and dad, or I'm going to talk to them about this. Okay, what is your goal in doing that? Like, I don't know. Okay, well, let's think about that, right? What is your goal? Is your goal to make them feel guilty? Or is your goal to make them feel bad? Is your goal to just get some venting, just be able to vent and process yourself? Or is your goal to change them? That's a good one. Like, oh, yeah, well, we can't do that. Also, studying family history and or talking to family members when you're at these events about your family's history can be something good. You go in and you talk about, hey, I read about or heard about or had, cousin so and so tell me about such and such relationship, and what do you think? So it can give us things to talk about, and certainly journaling can be powerful. It's something mentioned in the textbook. One of the themes that keeps coming up is just, are you evaluating your family of origin continually, continually, continually? It comes back to that. What role? I asked a lot of questions in here as I put this together intentionally. I want you to think about some things. If there was a divorce, what role did your parents play in that process? With your parents, who was emotionally reactive and who was withdrawn in your entire family, with you and your spouse? Those are good questions to ask. Did you follow a similar pattern? I can't tell you how many times people have, yeah, my parents met and courted for, dated for 6 weeks and boom, got married. And they did the same thing. Like, wow. And the author had that similar experience. My wife and I were high school sweethearts, dated on and off for 6, 7 years, and then got married when we were in college. My oldest daughter has taken on that same pattern at this point. My next daughter in line, they're not engaged yet, but we kind of expect that at some point, is following that same pattern. And I don't believe those things are mistakes. Now, all of my girls might not follow that same pattern, but that is a very interesting thing to watch for and to look at and to evaluate your own self and your own relationships in light of that. Sorry, I was looking at something and thinking. So what unresolved issues do you have? And please don't say your initial response to me, I don't have any unresolved issues. I'm just, wow, make me chuckle. Yeah, you do. We all do. You might be aware of it. Boy, ask the Lord for self-awareness. Ask, I think of the scripture that we have eyes to see and a mind to understand, ears to hear, eyes to see, and a mind to understand. Be open. Ask the Lord, the Holy Spirit, reveal to me some of the unresolved issues that I may have from my family of origin with sibling, previous marriages, mom and dad, whatever that may be. And recognize that it does. Oh, those things don't impact my current relationship. Of course they do. Just because you don't know about it or understand it, or because it is tucked away in your unconscious mind and you're not aware of it, does not mean it does not impact. It does. I promise, I promise, I promise. Um, have you ever contacted any of your family members, any distant relatives, and just talked about relationships? Hey, tell me about my mom. Tell me about my dad. Tell me about what y'all were like growing up. What was their relationship like with their mom and dad? Um, I've done some of that, and it's very powerful and very helpful. Um, Religion. When did your spiritual and or religious beliefs become your own and not simply your parents? That was something that came up, and the author realized that his religious beliefs really were just his parents' religious beliefs. And are there family secrets? How open and honest are people? Do people talk about what's going on in the family? Is everything a secret? Or the big ugly secret? Sometimes it may be such a secret you don't even know. Like, oh, but oftentimes there's like, well, there's something funny happened with Uncle Bill, and I don't know what it was, but something's, nobody will tell a straight story. Well, because it's some kind of a family secret. People want to talk about the alcoholism or the affair or the divorce or the domestic violence or whatever it might be. So look at those things in your own family and your life. Do you tend to be distant or clingy? Which one of your parents were distant or clingy? Did you have brothers and sisters that were distant or clingy? Um, think about that with yourself and how you got that growing up, and you tend to still do that today. Have you ever, and I loved how the author went to his ex-wife and said, hey, I need you to be honest and just tell me, what was it like living with me? Wow, how painful can that be, right? And he's like, wow, that was like life changing. It was powerful. He was at a point. It sounded like he came with sincerity and humility. You really need to have those going on if you do this. But ask somebody for some honest feedback about yourself. You could ask your spouse that. You could ask an adult child that. You could ask an aunt and uncle, a mom and dad, whatever. What do you see? What do you see my challenges as, or my weaknesses? That can be a very, very healthy thing to do. Um, are you aware? Self-awareness. Um, your relationship with your current spouse, you are probably replaying your relationship with one or both of your parents in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Maybe not completely, but are some of those dynamics there? I know it's true for me very much, and really it's fairly universal. Um, when we do start relating with people in more healthy ways, and by the way, many of you, I really get this, and you've talked about it in your discussion posts and in your papers. You start changing the way, I'm not going to do the dance. I'm not going to play the game. I'm not going to be sucked into your gaminess. I'm not going to be sucked into I'm not going to be controlled by your tendency to try to guilt me into doing something that I don't want to do. You stop doing those things. Oftentimes, initially, there is conflict. I mean, it may just blow sky high, and you may think, well, that person's never going to talk to me again. But oftentimes, not always. Now, I did say, often, right here, right? Often there is this pattern. So yeah, closer later, but you got to hang in there and stay healthy, and you'll have a healthier relationship on the other side of that if you do that as well. I love Peanuts and Little Charlie Brown. I think he's awesome. I grew up on him. Shows my age. Uh, um, in the textbook, he talked about sharing about his affair with an uncle and an aunt, and he was shocked. He expected them to be condemning and judgmental and kind of talk down to him, and it was amazing. They were like, "Wow, we like you." And this is a principle: when you share your heart with people and you become vulnerable and share your weaknesses or your failures, in a humble and respectful manner, then you are oftentimes liked more on the other side of that, and your relationship with that person will be closer. Think about that as well, and in terms of is there somebody in your family that you could do this with? The author also talks a lot about being driven by his feelings instead of his thinking, and something to be aware of. And do we even know the difference? I mean, am I aware while I'm being driven by my feelings as I say this or react in this way, or are we able to think and respond logically to people? And finally, just a reminder that this process really does take a lifetime it takes a lifetime. We can grow for all of our life. It's not like we can go into this process and, I'm understanding this stuff, I'm studying this stuff, I'm going to be healthy in 8 weeks or 2 months or 2 years. Like, no. Tons of layers, tons and tons and tons of layers of growth to be done. And as Christians, we can ask the Lord to help us with that and trust that He will lead us and guide us through that. That was my last slide. All right, guys, God bless. I hope y'all are doing well. Feel free to contact me if you have questions or challenges or problems. All right, thanks. Bye.